Hello everybody, this is Donnie with Pvgna.com. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Today's video is going to be just a really quick one. It's something that I've kind of been experiencing a little bit in my pubs recently, and I just was thinking about it, so I wanted to pass on the knowledge to you. And we're going to talk today about when to buy a gem, and specifically when to buy a gem as a core in your pubs. So let's just get right into it. Gem of Truesight costs 900 gold and starts out in stock in the main shop. Once you purchase it, however, it takes 10 minutes for a new gem to be available for purchase. As the name states, Gem of Truesight provides a 900 radius where you can see any invisible units around the carrier. It does not work on couriers and it does not work on Spirit Bearer, but it will drop when either of one of these units dies. And speaking of that, Gem of Truesight is just like Divine Rapier, where whenever the carrier of the gem dies, it will drop on the ground and it can be picked up by anybody. And this property is one of the reasons why you don't see gem purchased a lot in pub games, especially at the lower MMRs. Carrying a gem creates a lot of anxiety for people because it's such an important item, and it can be a huge double-edged sword when you have invisibility heroes on your team. Even if you don't have any heroes with a Shadow Blade or inherent invisibility, having a gem creates a large amount of map control for your team because of your ability to just walk around and find wards and deward them. And because of this, it's actually one of the most powerful items in the game, and can single-handedly turn the tides of a game or just win a game straight up if you have a gem at the right time. There's three specific heroes that everybody's familiar with as being good gem carriers, and those are Night Stalker, Keeper of the Light, and Bat Rider. The reason that these heroes are such good gem carriers is, well, for Night Stalker and Keeper of the Light, they have an Aghanim's upgrade that gives them an absurdly large flying vision range that allows them to detect wars and invisible enemies in normally hard to find places. Bat Rider is another hero that we see carrying the gem a lot in pro games because of his ability to go anywhere with unobstructed movement through Firefly. With the flying vision granted through Sticky Napalm, it allows Bat Rider to check basically anywhere that Night Stalker or Keeper of the Light could. And because Bat Rider is a hero that exists specifically to get pickoffs, it's really important for him to be able to detect if there is vision so that the enemy cannot see him coming, so those pickoffs are successful. There are definitely plenty of other good gem carriers, and we see some of these other ones in pro games like Bounty Hunter and Nyx, who can provide vision undetected through their own invisibility. But let's talk specifically about pub games, because that's what we are playing, that's what you guys are playing, and that's where this is important. So to make this simple, I've created a few specific rules that I like to follow when I'm looking at purchasing a gem. Rule number one kind of has two parts. The first is there an invisible hero on the enemy team that is having a large impact on the game? Or are there two or more invisible heroes, meaning inherently invisible or bought a Shadow Blade, on the enemy team? This can even include Glimmer Cape, so keep that in mind. But if either of these things is true, then this is a good gem game. This is a game that you probably should have a gem in at some point. Rule number two. My team is having a very hard time crossing the river, and we don't seem to be able to catch out any of the other enemy heroes. If you're getting this kind of feeling in the game, it usually means that your supports are losing the warding battle. And this is a pretty common experience in pub games because a lot of people tend to ward in the same few areas that they've seen other people do and do over and over and over, and it makes it very predictable. So one of the fastest ways to clear out wards and then be able to make moves undetected is to buy a gem. And the last circumstance that I wanted to highlight is when you are ready to close out a game. When you have taken all of the outer towers and you're ready to push high ground, but you seem to be getting split pushed really hard and you're having a hard time actually ending the game. Buying a gem in this scenario is really good because the opposing team's strategy is entirely around dodging fights. They want to have some defensive wards, they want to know where your heroes are, and they want to avoid running into them at all costs, forcing you to come high ground and take a fight on their terms. In an ideal situation, you find yourself in one of these scenarios, you talk about it as a team, somebody buys a gem, you group up, and you group up around that gem and use it to accomplish either coming back into the game or closing out a game. However, pubs are not usually that simple. So, sometimes you need to take matters into your own hands. Let's be honest, often you need to take matters into your own hands as a carry or a mid, offlane, or even as a support. So we figured out how to detect if it's a good game for a gem. But when should you actually buy the gem in a game? Like many things in Dota, this kind of comes down to feel to some extent. However, there are a few things that we can look at as triggers for when you should buy this gem. The first is, are you innately a good gem carrier? Are you an invisible hero like a Riki, a Clinks, a Nyx Assassin, a Slark, a Shadow Fiend with Shadowblade? Are you one of these heroes that has invisibility and can provide the true sight without being detected yourself? Or do you need that gem, let's say, to counter all the sentries that the enemy team is putting up to stop you from running over them with your Shadowblade? Shadowblade is definitely one of the most popular items in pub games, so there are probably a lot of games where this is the case. If you aren't on a hero that would normally buy a Shadowblade, however, don't go out of your way to buy one. There's two specific things that need to happen for you to buy a gem. One, you have the ability to kill an enemy hero. And this is important because if you're investing 900 gold into an item that detects heroes, you want to be able to actually punish them for being invisible and being out of position. So if you have a stun, or if you're a Juggernaut with Omni Slash, or something that allows you to, generally speaking, secure kills, you should feel pretty comfortable about picking up a gem. The other half of that equation is that you want to have some sort of escape. And this can be in the form of Pounce on Slark, this could be a Blink, this could be Juggernaut Spin, but it could also just be having a BKB or a Force Staff or something like that. When you're investing in a gem, you really don't want to lose it, obviously, and so having a way to disengage a fight that is not going well, even if you had detection and the upper hand in that fight, not every fight goes perfectly, so being able to disengage and not lose that gem is pretty important as well. So basically, that's what it comes down to. Do you need a gem in this game, and do you have the ability to effectively utilize that gem without feeding it to the enemy team? If those two things are true, and you should get better and better at recognizing the scenarios, then it's probably a good gem game. And one of the things about pubs is that there's just rarely enough detection being bought ever in the form of dust, and especially in the form of sentries. And if you think about it, one gem, 900 gold worth of items, is only 9 sentries or 5 dust packets. And so if you feel like your team just doesn't have enough detection, and you're playing like a Sven, or a Slark, or a Queen of Pain, or even a Viper, or somebody who's frontlining, and you're in a place where the game is pretty even, or you're just not going to immediately feed the gem away, just buy it. Buying a gem can secure you the mid-game fights that will determine who wins the game that you might otherwise lose if you just don't have enough detection to these fights. Of course, as the game goes later, you may need to find somebody else to hold the gem if you are trying to scale as the carry, but sometimes it might even be worth not having that 6th damage item and just having the gem so that you can find and kill that carry with a Shadow Blade, or that Nature's Prophet who's split pushing you, or that Bounty Hunter who's been really annoying in keeping track of your team's movement. Think of it this way. If you had an inventory of 6 Divine Rapiers, it would be like your inventory was worth 0 if you couldn't actually hit somebody. So, investing that 900 gold into an item in your inventory that allows you to utilize all of your skills and the rest of your net worth to kill important or annoying heroes is totally worth it.